All right, this is part three. This is Mark Lichtenwalter. I'm just leaving Spencer now. I wanted to show you guys something. Then I'll flip the camera around and you can see me again. But I used to ride my snowmobile down here and leave the snowmobile just right here. And there's the cemetery. I wanted to go over there too, but I'm just gonna have to do that later. I don't have time today. Anyway, I'd have to dig my snowmobile out of the drift when we got home from school. All right, so 13 miles south of here was where I used to go to school in Du Bois, Idaho, Clark County, Idaho. This is all Clark County, Idaho. So that town back there, the population when I was a kid was about 30, although they were not permanent residents. There was about 11 people that would stay every winter, and everybody else would leave. We would stay sometimes in the winter, but not all the time in the winter. Anyway, I think I'll just leave it off of me because you've seen enough of me and talk a little bit about the next part of my life. So, after Rebecca Limberg and I got the annulment civilly, um, I transferred up to Salt Lake and got a place in Clearfield, Utah. And my friend from St. George came up with me, and he was on disabilities, and I worked. We shared a 2-bedroom apartment, and I drove coal from I drove coal from the mines that I in Schofield and down south, Sufco, Skyline and Schofield. Anyway, and I'd take it out to Montana, or to, not Montana, where was I taking it out to? It's trying to focus on, well, I'll flip it back around later. All right, so I took the coal out to Pilot Peak, just past Wendover, Nevada, and I did that until January of 2008, and then I that's when I worked in the oil fields out in Roosevelt and Vernal, south of Roosevelt and Vernal out there. During that time, I started drinking again, started smoking again, was very suicidal again. Did try to commit suicide. I was in, I think it's called Cottonwood Heights or something like that, a psychiatric institution after my suicide attempt. Was very angry, and something broke inside of me when Rebecca and I got the annulment. In fact, I was actually in the hospital after my suicide attempt when the annulment was granted. Anyway, I went off the deep end, and for a while I didn't go to church. I was mad at God. I was mad at everything, and like I got a job as first in the oil field, but then they trained me, and I became a specialized truck driver for oil field emergency management. And and I did that until May, I think, of 2010. And then I got a job driving a dump truck. And so I, between, or belly dumps, so, well, both. Anyway, between um, 2006 and 2010, like, I never went to drugs again, but I did drink. Um, my friend used to call me Bad Boy Scout because, like, I brought everything with me, and like, oh, I had so many tools on the truck, and anyway, and like, I was kind of Boy Scoutish, but like, and I knew all this stuff about the gospel, and but I also smoked, and I drank. Of course, I never drank at work. They never saw that part of me, but not great years of my life. Um, and after 2010, after um, that summer, and we were getting laid off for the winter, I had been becoming very good friends with somebody called, her name was Maquette Lester. That's her maiden name. It's not that anymore, but her name's Maquette. She lived in Leavenworth, Washington, and I drove my motorhome up to Washington because we got engaged. And everything was great until Christmas of 2010. On Christmas Day, I was at her parents' house with her, and her dad got very angry because Maquette was the oldest, and then her sister, Suzette, I think. I could be wrong about that. Suzette might be her mother. It's been a while. Anyway, her father and I and her brother got into a fight because he was screaming at her. And I remember she was in the kitchen, and she, like, I heard him screaming, and I didn't want to get involved. But when I came around the corner and he's like down in her face screaming at her, and she's like, I don't know, like bowed down before him, like in a protective pose, it just set me off. And I got into it with him because nobody was going to do that. I don't care if you're her dad or what. I'm not going to sit around and watch you abuse my fiance. And anyway, long story short, they forbid me to marry her. She was going to go through it anyway and defy their forbidding. um, I moved to Moses Lake, Washington to wait for her because she had friends over there. Anyway, eventually, like, she finally did break it off with me. So something interesting that happened. So she had a friend in Moses Lake, and her friend's mother claimed to be a medium. She claimed that being a medium, and they were LDS. It was a gift of the spirit for her. Okay, never heard of that before or after, but anyway, so she's a medium, and apparently, um, Maquette was very close to her aunt, and her aunt had died, and her aunt came to her friend, who's a medium, who is a woman in the LDS church. I'm going to turn this camera back around. You might not be able to see what I want to show you, but anyway, so 13 miles south of Spencer is Du Bois, Idaho. I can just adjust this. It's kind of hard to see. That water tower's been there for so many years. Anyway, that's where I went to elementary school, junior high, and high school. And in junior high and high school was in the same building. And you had to walk like 2 blocks down the road to the elementary school because they had a cafeteria at the elementary school, but they didn't have one at the high school. So back then there was 800 and something people in this whole county, Clark County, Idaho. You can go look it up on Wikipedia today. There's less people here than there was when I lived here. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, so this woman received communication from the aunt. I guess Maquette was skeptical about it at first, but then the communication with the spirit like revealed a bunch of things that only the aunt and Maquette would know. And anyway, she was told by this spirit that I was not supposed to marry her, and that there was another person that she was supposed to marry, and she needed to cut off all contact with me. Now, just so you know, Brigham Young says that if you ever have a spirit come to you in that way, you tell that spirit to go back to hell because that's where that spirit came from. I don't believe that Maquette's aunt came to her. I believe that a demon who is very familiar with Maquette came to her friend's mom. But it didn't matter because Maquette and I were not going to get married. And then I tried to kill myself again. I actually tried to work things out with her. I even moved to Everett, Washington to give her space because she really loved me and she wanted to marry me, but it was hard for her. And I tried reasoning with her. Eventually, I hung myself 3 different times. The last time was the worst. My whole head was swollen. My tongue was swollen. My eyes had blood in the whites of the eyes. And I just hung there by the neck. And I didn't die. And I hung there for quite a while. So after I finally got myself down, I had a new refill. I counted it out. It was 5,000 milligrams of tramadol. I took the whole bottle. Tramadol will actually stop your the things in your body like your breathing, your heart, anything that is automatic. It'll just, if you overdose on it, it will stop everything. 5,000 milligrams would kill an elephant, and I took the whole bottle. I was done. You know, and I was in Everett, Washington. I'm laying on my bed in the back of this motorhome in this RV park, and I'm feeling the effects of it. And right before I passed out, the last thing I remember is I could feel what seemed like physical hands on top of my head, but nobody was there. And I felt it was my grandfather and Jesus Christ. Now, I don't know who did it, but I felt the burning in the bosom flow over me, and I felt this peace. And I misinterpreted what was going on. I was dying. And and I justified, well, I have my calling and election made sure I'm not going to go to hell. So I was so happy that I was going home. Let me tell you something. The veil is there for your well-being. Because I have been in the presence of the Father and the Son physically and back in 2003, and because I've been in their presence many times in the Spirit, I know what it's like to be home. I know what it's like to be there with them. It is so hard to be in this world. It is so hard to be in this world when you know what it's like to be home. When you know what it's like to be in their presence, it makes this life so much harder. And because you have forgotten, this life is bearable for you. It takes a special kind of person to be able to endure this life and not just want to go home every single day. Now I have a family now. I love my family with all of my heart, and I don't want to die. Okay, I I will go home when it's time for me to go home. I want to be with my family now. They're my anchor to this world. If I didn't have them, I'd still want to go home. But but I'm not allowed to, because what happened in 2000, and actually it was 2011. It was like January. Um, and we were supposed to get married on February 22nd, 2011. My cat and I. But after I took that 5,000 milligrams of tramadol, and I was right on the verge of passing out, and I felt the sweet peace of the spirit, and then that burning, that a spiritual burning that went through my body. I was unconscious, and I was unconscious for about 7 hours, and I woke up, and I had vomited. I was very high for several days. Because I had overdosed on all those pills, I actually was constipated worse than any time I've ever been constipated. That was bad. Oh. Anyway, but I survived all four of my suicide attempts. And as I was there, and I couldn't. I actually, twice in my life, I've gone without food for over 30 days, and they had to do with Rebecca. I couldn't bring myself to eat after 30 days of not eating. So I didn't drink with Rebecca like water or anything for like 2 or 3 days, and I was getting these horrible headaches, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll drink water, but I can't eat. I was so heartbroken. And to tell you the truth, something broke in me with Rebecca that I've never been able to get back. I've had all these spiritual experiences and all these things, but before Rebecca and after Rebecca, something has always been broken in me. Like, not that I'm perfect. I've been broken in so many different ways. It's just ridiculous. But something broke in me with her that I never have been able to ever recover from. And it's strange because I still love her and I want the best for her. I'm sad that she has never had children. I'm sad that she never got to be married. She's in her 40s now, and I know where she lives. I haven't I've not spoken to her or contacted her in any way since 2006. The closest contact I have had with her is that her grandmother's wedding dress, which is the wedding dress that she got married in, Beulah Hinckley's wedding dress, like a year after the annulment, I found it, and I found some other stuff of hers, and I took it back to Rose, Thomas Ford Rose, I think. Thomas Ford Rose, Ford Road Thomas, or I don't know. His last name is Rose. Anyway, like the son of Beulah Hinckley, her and the uncle of Rebecca Lindbergh, who goes by Rebecca Rose now. But anyway, I found her wedding dress and I took it back to him and spoke with him briefly, and he was always nice to me. But yeah, she actually lived with him when we were dating. Anyway, so I'm sitting in my motorhome in Everett, Washington in 2011, and I'm like getting ready to go back to Salt Lake, go home. I'm I've given up, completely just given up. And Jesus Christ told me not to go back to Salt Lake because there were people that were there who were looking for me who wanted to kill me. And I didn't care, and I was like, well, I'm going back anyway. Anyway, but I was told not to, so I did listen. I did go back, but I didn't go back to stay. But I was thinking, where was I happiest at? Like there's this little island off the coast of Okinawa, which is an island in the Ryukyu Islands, and we used to go there, and I loved that place. We'd go camping there, snorkeling. It was beautiful, and I just wanted to go to the beach. But in the winter of 2011, I'm in Everett, Washington, and it's ridiculous, raining every day, snowing, and cold, and I was thinking of Okinawa and Ike Island and how warm and nice it was there. I was like, well, I can't drive my car to Okinawa, but I can go back to I can go back to Florida, and I'd lived in Florida before when I was younger, and I'd been to Florida many times as a truck driver. So I told my friend in Salt Lake, and he had some friends down in Miami, and we decided we were gonna head on down to Florida and stay with our friends in Miami and figure it out. He's like, well, uh, how much, how many gallons a mile does your car get? I told him, but like what I told him was what I would get when it was empty. Like I didn't expect him to pack so much into that car. So we didn't get the fuel mileage I told him, and he always was mad at me about that. Like, I didn't lie to you. That's what I get when I'm just driving around. Like, it never occurred to him that if you pack hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds of clothing into the back of this car, it but you're not going to get good fuel mileage because you're going to be carrying this extra weight. So anyway, we left Salt Lake and drove down to a place northeast of Vegas, out in the flippin' boonies somewhere. And we picked up my friend Marin, and who is a girl, and she was like 19 or something like that. Jay is like 30, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, but we picked up Marin, who was Jay's friend, and like my friend too, but more Jay's friend. Anyway, and she was actually in a drug rehab center, and we took her down to New Orleans, and she had family in New Orleans. We stayed at their house for a couple days. Went and did the whole walk in that street down there that I just I didn't like that place. I can feel energies, right? And yeah. Anyway, so they went back there like 3 nights in a row. I just stayed at the house um, after the first time going. Didn't go back. Anyway, so we stayed there for 3 days, and then we went on our way down to Miami to go to Jay's friend's place. They contacted him and said that we couldn't come there. We were already in Florida, and so we're like trying to figure out what to do because like we don't have a lot of money, you know. We come all this way, and no, we don't have a place to go. So anyway, I suggest why don't we go to Tampa? It's like one of the few cities in this country I've never been to that point. But we looked around, looked a couple places, looking for like roommate situations. Didn't get a good feeling about it. And I said, well, let's go to St. Petersburg. I haven't been there. We fell in love with St. Petersburg. And Maureen decided she was going to be a beach bum. So she took off and was going to be a homeless beach bum. Jay got a hostel room, which is he could only have himself, and I don't believe him. Um, yeah, I don't want to get into all of that because he was mad because it cost so much money for the gas, but like 3 adults and all of Jay's crap, which like I kept telling him, you can't take all this. Like there's no room, you know, and whatever. But anyway, so we moved down to St. Petersburg, and he got a hostel. My friend Moran, who's like 19, or maybe she was 20. I think she was 20. She wasn't 21. I know that much. But she's going to go be a beach bum in Florida. So across the street from the hostel, and this is in a bad, bad part of town, south side of St. Petersburg, there was a burned out house, and there was like this wraparound driveway in front of the burned out house, and then there was a vacant lot, and then there was another house, and that house was a place that dealt drugs, right? So bad neighborhood. Anyway, so I had a hatchback, and I slept in my hatchback in the driveway of the burned out house by Jay, and every morning I would go down to the labor ready place uh, and do hard labor and get paid that night. And I continued to do that until I saved up enough money to get into a place. And it was really a good experience because there was times when I didn't have anything to eat, I didn't have any money, no work, um, and God would tell people, and I would never ask for money, and it didn't look like I was homeless, but God would tell people, and they'd come up to me and they said, God told me that I needed to help you out, that I needed to give you this money, and like they would just come up and like these strangers, you know, and I didn't look like I took showers every day down at the beach. I'd go down to the beach every day, and then when I was done, I'd get in the shower and I had shampoo and I wash off in my swimming suit and go into the bathroom and change back into dry clothes and living in my car. Anyway, eventually I got enough money to get into a place. I stayed in this place with a bunch of other people, shared a room, and then that was not a good situation either. But anyway, eventually everybody moved out, and I was the only one there. So I was paying $600 a month for a three-bedroom, old 1919 top of the house. Um, like you go in and immediately to the right is the bathroom. Immediately to the left is a small kitchen, and then you go and then into an open area, which is like a living room, and to three sides of the top of this house, you have three bedrooms. And eventually, I was the only one living there, didn't have any furniture. And part of my job, one of my jobs was that I was the best worker at this 55 and older. Like a bunch of us went out there to help clean up out there at this 55 and older trailer park place. So they asked me if I would take care of the place because the maintenance manager, was going for some 6 week long or something like that, active military reserve unit thing or whatever. And anyway, while I was there, people die in Florida, and people that die in Florida and those kind of places, their families are not anywhere nearby. They're from Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota and whatever. And hold on here. Let me go. Okay, to bypass way station. Sweet. Okay, I'm in Hamer, Idaho. This way station, when I was a teenager, it was built back in the 90s, and like this road here, I-15 that you're looking at now, when I was a little kid, this did not exist. It was a two-lane road, Highway 91. Anyway, but back in the 90s, in fact, we watched them build the road up I-15. Anyway, okay, so back in the 90s, they built this way station here, and I remember watching the news out of Idaho Falls when we got three channels. One came in kind of good, it was a little bit fuzzy. Two of them were fuzzy, but you can still watch them, whatever. Anyway, back in Idaho Falls, they had a news story. Somebody had actually, when they were building that place, somebody took a bunch of dynamite into there and blew that place. And they did a lot of damage to that way station there back in the 90s. That one that I just passed. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, okay. So I did the work at this maintenance for maintenance at this 55 and older trailer park, and people would die. And in Florida, you have to actually evict a dead person. So all that would go through, and then we were able to clean their stuff out. Family members would not come down and get it. And there's thrift stores that are overloaded all over Florida because the old people go there and die. And yeah, so like anything I wanted, I could just take. And I was able to furnish my three-bedroom 1919 house apartment that was a mile from the beach and about a mile from downtown St. Petersburg, in the hood, Ninth Avenue North. Drug dealers and hookers and gangbangers, and but that's where I lived. So anyway, I was able to furnish this place with all the beds, all of the like nice antique furniture. That was before flat screens came out. Well, no, it wasn't, because I had a flat screen before that. But I had this big tube TV, like 36-inch tube TV I got up there, like this nice electric, um, like leather couch. I, that was difficult to get up there. Anyway, but God took care of me. Like He took care of me the whole time I was there. Eventually, I was able to get a job driving. Well, I had a job driving on and off through this labor finder's place, delivering scaffolding. Um, that was fun. I enjoyed that. And then I got hired on through the um, through this place, Labor Ready, which is where I got all my work from. And I was driving um, Class A truck with a trailer, flatbed, hauling around directional drilling equipment of different varying sizes depending on the job that we needed to do. And eventually they bought my contract out. So this is through the summer of 2011. And then in 2012, in March of 2012, um, I'm going to make another video about that because I want people to hear this video. So yeah, I'm going to make another video about that. That'll be part 4. This is part 3, I think. Yeah, part 3. So, all right. Well, I'm going to give my wife a call before I make that video. So, because it is now 5:06 p.m. and I think I'm getting pretty close. Oh, I can see the Teton Mountains today. It's a nice clear day. Anyway, all right, well, I want people to hear this next part because this is awesome how this happened with my wife and I, um, and how that came together. We actually got married 20 days after we met in person, and we knew each other for like hearing her voice the first time on May 28th. That was the first time I heard her voice. We'd talk on chat sometimes, and neither one of us were looking to get married. In fact, neither one of us wanted to get married. I was learning to be happy as a single man. She was completely fine, never having another man abuse her in her life. And so the next part of the story is awesome. So, all right, that'll bring us up to 2012. Thank you for watching. Take care, everyone. God bless. Goodbye.